Welcome back to Old Coin Adventures. Look at this 1939 Jefferson nickel. At first, there's nothing unusual about it. Jefferson is on the front. The date says 1939. It looks like an ordinary 5-cent coin. But turn it over, and forget about the portrait. Forget about the date. Look at one word, Monticello. Because on a special 1939 Jefferson nickel, that word can appear to have something that shouldn't be there. A second impression, a strange separation in the letters. And if you're looking at the right characteristics, you may not be looking at damage at all. You may be looking at one of the most famous varieties in the early Jefferson Nickel series, the doubled Monticello. But here's the mystery. Why is the word doubled? How did it happen? And why would collectors care about a tiny difference in a few letters? That's what we're going to investigate. We'll examine the coin, look at exactly where the doubling appears. We'll get to the part everyone wants to know. The value, the auction records, and what an exceptional certified example has actually brought. So if you have a 1939 Jefferson nickel, don't put it away yet. Turn it over and look at the word, Monticello. Because sometimes, one word can tell an entirely different story. Before we talk about the money, let's understand what we're actually looking at. This is a 1939 Jefferson nickel, one of the earliest coins in the Jefferson Nickel series. The Jefferson nickel was introduced in 1938, and the design featured Thomas Jefferson on the obverse, with his famous Monticello home on the reverse. The obverse portrait was designed by Felix Schrag, and the reverse shows Monticello, surrounded by the inscriptions, United States of America, E pluribus unum, Monticello, and 5 cents. The coin measures approximately 21.2 millimeters across and weighs about 5 grams. Its composition is primarily copper and nickel, and the edge is plain. Now, turn the coin over. This is where our investigation begins. Look directly at Monticello. Don't just read the word. Study the individual letters. On the famous 1939 doubled Monticello variety, the doubling is especially noticeable in the lettering. And another important area is 5 cents. The recognized variety is known as the 1939 doubled Monticello FS 801. This isn't simply a coin that looks old, and it isn't a random scratch across the surface. The important question is whether the doubling matches the known characteristics of the variety, because there's a major difference between a genuine double die and damage that happened after the coin left the mint. Machine doubling can sometimes make letters look wider, flat, or shifted. Damage can create lines that appear to be doubling, even where it can make the lettering look strange. So don't search for something that merely looks unusual. Search for the specific characteristics. Look at Monticello. Then compare 5 cents. Check the shape of the letters, the direction of the separation, and whether the feature is consistent across the areas where the variety is known. And if you think you've found something, don't clean the nickel. Don't polish it. Don't scrape the letters. And don't try to make the doubling stronger. The original surface is part of the evidence. Take clear photographs. Use proper magnification. And compare your coin with authenticated examples. Because now we have the first half of the mystery. We know what the famous doubling looks like, and we know where to search. But there's still a much bigger question. If this is really the doubled Monticello, how much could a 5-cent coin from 1939 actually be worth? That's where things get much more interesting. Now, let's talk about value. And this is where you need to be careful. Not every 1939 Jefferson nickel is valuable. Not every coin with unusual lettering is a doubled Monticello. And definitely not every 1939 nickel is worth thousands of dollars. The exact variety, authenticity, condition, and grade all matter. The famous variety we're looking for is the 1939 doubled Monticello FS 801. And this is where the story becomes impressive. PCGS estimates that roughly 4,000 examples survive in all grades, with around 1,400 estimated to survive in MS65 or better. That means the coin is collectible, but condition becomes extremely important. A circulated example, with heavy wear, is completely different from a sharply struck, high-grade full steps example. And that's why you should never look at one huge auction number and assume your coin is worth the same amount. Instead, look at actual completed sales. A remarkable MS67 full steps example holds the PCGS auction record at $23,500. That coin sold in 2019. But there's another important recent result. A PCGS MS66 full steps example sold for $12,000 at Stack's Bowers in November 2025. Those numbers show just how dramatically condition can change the story. But remember, a circulated doubled Monticello can be worth far less. So if your nickel looks promising, don't immediately think $23,500. Think, is this actually the right variety? Is it genuine? What grade could it receive? That's the proper order. Professional authentication can be extremely important. PCGS and NGC are examples of services that authenticate and grade collectible U.S. coins. Once a coin is certified, you can compare its grade and variety with actual auction results. And if the coin proves to be a desirable example, established auction platforms such as Heritage Auctions, Great Collections, or Stack's Bowers may be considered when it's time to sell. But here's the lesson I want you to remember. The value of this nickel isn't hiding in the number 1939. It's hiding in the details. It's hiding in the lettering, in the doubling, in the condition, and in the evidence that proves what the coin really is. So take your 1939 Jefferson Nickel, turn it over, and look at Monticello. Then check 5 cents. Because what looks like an ordinary inscription could actually be the clue that separates an ordinary nickel from a famous collector variety. This is Old Coin Adventures. And remember, sometimes you don't have to find a completely different coin. You just have to notice what everyone else overlooked.